this Saturday. But where better to be than Jerusalem? We're really excited for the program today. We have some amazing folks on the ground in Jerusalem with us. My name is Nancy Mansour. I am the Executive Director at Eyewitness Palestine. And we are joined today by our lovely Maureen, who is also with Eyewitness Palestine. We have Khaled Farrag, who is on our board of directors, and also one of the founders of Grassroots Jerusalem, as well as Yazan Rishik, who is with Grassroots Jerusalem, who are on the ground right now by the Mount of Olives. We are also joined by our brother Sheikh Mousa of the Afro-Palestinian Society, out of the old city of Jerusalem. And we will be taking a quick tour of the Mount of Olives. We will then be watching a short video from Grassroots Jerusalem on some of the history of Jerusalem. And then we will join Khaled again, who will take us through the old city. And we will be speaking with Sheikh Mousa about the African quarters and the Afro-Palestinians in Jerusalem. So thank you again. And we are recording for anybody that just came in. I am going to give it over to our brother Khaled Farrag and Yazan Rizik.
Hey, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'm now in the Mount of Olives. Some mosque. So we are on the eastern side, the old city of Jerusalem, and the west. For left, as I will show you in a minute, is Silwan, just below the old city. I'm just giving you a bit of speak actually.
Khaled, the sound is really bad.
Okay. Now?
Khaled, do we lose you?
No?
There you are.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so let's do it this way. I think it's just too windy. So anyway, what you're seeing now is the Musa Mosque, and we are right above it, Mount of Olives. And just below it, this is Silwan, one of the most targeted neighborhoods in the Holy Basin around the old city. And to the right, the old city is Wadi Show's neighborhood, also one of the main neighborhoods that is now facing a new policies of Israelization, Judaization at the moment. So it's really windy. I'm sorry. We'll do it briefly, but to the main and the most important thing to talk about here are two things. First, Silwan, as we said, is one of the most targeted neighborhoods by settlement movements, especially the center called Ilad, which is on the top of it, in a neighborhood inside Silwan called Wadi Hilwe. They have a center there called Ir Amim, which means the city of nations. But it's an archaeological site that was basically mandated by the Israeli government to this settler movement organization, basically, that puts its aim to settle Jews in the eastern part of Jerusalem, within the Palestinian neighborhood, inside, in the heart of them. Of course, all in an attempt to break down the territorial continuum of the Palestinian neighborhoods in the city and put facts on the ground. So at the moment in Silwan, over 88 homes are under the threat of being demolished to build a national biblical park, the Kidron Valley Park, it's called, part of the policy to basically change the scene in Jerusalem, make it more and more Israeli. And this is done usually by zoning policies and national parks, even using climate change excuses to change the way the land is used many times. Just below the what we're seeing, the wall that is lighted, this is Rahbi Cemetery that is very targeted, but right next to it, to the right of it, is a Yusufiyi cemetery, which is actually the settlers are attempting right now to take over by going there, but the Palestinians of Jerusalem are always present there to stop them, and lots of clashes happen there almost on a daily basis. So just to finish off quickly, Wadi Juz is kind of the industrial action around all city. It's where lots of shops and car shops and so on work. And now the Israeli plan for Wadi Juz is to destroy this street, this industrial street, and create what they call the Silicon Wadi. And yeah, it is called that way because of the Silicon Valley. And the plan is to bring Israeli open their companies and like headquarters in this street and make it, I mean, they of course market it as more jobs and opportunities for Palestinians, but it is also an attempt to change the scene, make it Israeli, make the Israeli economy control more and more the scene in East Jerusalem as well. This is all in addition to the tourism policies that Israel has been changing from here, from Mount of Olives to the Old City, where just behind the Al-Aqsa Mosque, what we see here is the big, the Wailing Wall, Al-Buraq Wall, as we call it, and that's where we can be connected soon with a cable car project, which will actually change the scene of the city, the skyline of the city forever, and connect also to the western side of the city. This is an attempt to bring tourism to these areas without them driving through the Palestinian neighborhoods and see the reality there, and of course, in attempt to keep their money and weaken the economy out of the Palestinian markets. So there's a lot to say here, but it's dark now, so I'll give you back the mic, and if you guys have any questions when we get to the Old City, you can ask. I hope this was clear and brief enough. Thank you guys, and we'll talk soon when we get to the Old City.
Thank you, Khaled. We will see you in a little while. I am going to share with you now a video from Grassroots that will give you a clearer look at what Khaled was talking about and a little more context.
Welcome to the Grassroots Al-Quds tour of Jerusalem. On this tour, you will discover what it means to be a Palestinian living under Israeli occupation. We will visit Palestinian neighborhoods in Jerusalem and learn about displacement policies that threaten their existence. Although the Zionist colonization started much earlier, we'll begin this Jerusalem tour with the Nakba, or catastrophe. In 1948, the Zionist militias occupied 78% of the lands of Palestine, on which they declared independence. In this war,
Hey, Nancy, I think we lost your audio. Hey, Nancy?
There is no sound. Hello?
Yeah, we lost Nancy's audio. Hey, Nancy?
Musrara, just outside the old city. You are looking at Palestinian homes whose owners were expelled during the Nakba. You might be able to recognize the beautiful Palestinian architecture of that period, the thick old Jerusalem stone and the arched windows and doors. The people who used to live here are now refugees who are banned from returning to their homes by the occupation authorities. In 1950, the occupation authorities passed the so-called absentee property law. This law deemed all Palestinian property, like these homes, as state property. Zionist settlers and institutions occupy these homes today. We are now near Sur Baher in the south of Jerusalem. And this is the United Nations headquarters. This building used to be the High Commissioner's Palace during the British colonial rule and was given to the UN following the 1948 war. In 1967, the eastern part of Jerusalem was occupied. In 1973, the colony of Armon HaNatziv, Hebrew for the Commissioner's Palace, was built right in front of the United Nations. This story is very symbolic. While the Zionist state breaks international law, the international community stands silent about these violations. This is why many Palestinians have little to no faith in international law as a tool they can use in their struggle for liberation. In June 1967, the Zionist state occupied the eastern part of Jerusalem. Immediately following the war, the occupation authorities took 3 legal steps regarding the newly occupied part of the city. First, they expanded the municipal boundaries of Jerusalem by 71.4 square kilometers into the east. The new city borders did not include all villages in the Jerusalem district. Second, a census was carried out in the new municipal area, and its 66,000 Palestinians were given against their will an Israeli residency status. Third, the Israeli civil law was imposed in the eastern part of Jerusalem. These 3 steps laid the foundations for the official annexation of this part later on in 1980. In 1970, the master plan known as Jerusalem 2020 was laid out. In this plan, the occupation authorities declared as a goal to achieve and maintain a so-called demographic balance between Jews and non-Jews in Jerusalem, their terminology. This imbalance, to use a better term, is 70% Jewish, 30% non-Jewish. In other words, 70% Israeli and 30% Palestinian. In order to achieve this goal, the occupation authorities started designing and implementing policies of displacing Palestinians from Jerusalem. The first tool designed to displace Palestinians from Jerusalem is the same legal status that was imposed on them in 1967. Misleadingly called a permanent residency, this legal status considers the indigenous Palestinians in Jerusalem as immigrants to their own city. As such, they are forced to constantly prove that Jerusalem is their center of life, meaning that they have a physical address in Jerusalem, that they pay taxes, receive medical care, and attend schools inside the city. At the same time, the occupation authorities systematically prevent these same services from the Palestinian population, pushing Palestinians outside of Jerusalem to look for houses, jobs, and schools. It then uses this as an excuse to revoke legal statuses of Palestinians. Since 1967, 15,000 residents lost their legal status and with it, the right to live in their city. The next tool of displacement is urban planning. Looking at the city from the south, on the left, you can see the western part of Jerusalem, and on the right, the eastern part, starting with the Old City and the Golden Dome of the Rock, and then the Mount of Olives and the Al-Izariyeh. Take a few seconds to play this little game. Count the number of cranes you see in the western part of the city and those you see in the eastern part of the city. In the west, the number is 9. In the east, 0. While the west is developed, modern, and vibrant, the east is a concrete jungle, crowded, underdeveloped, and poor. This is not surprising, taking into account that the Palestinian population is not welcome in the city. In Jerusalem, urban planning policies aim at displacing and uprooting as many Palestinians as possible. Since the 1967 occupation, Palestinian land has been systematically confiscated for the sake of building colonies and colonial roads, industrial zones, and parks. This here is the so-called Peace Forest, a live example on how the occupation policies dispossess Palestinians and advance colonial projects on their lands. In 1967, Palestinian privately owned lands were declared an open green zone by the Israeli occupation. Trees were planted, preventing the construction of desperately needed homes and structures. At the same time, the Israeli occupation authorities have been granting settler organizations special permits to build touristic structures on these lands. Today, 60 buildings, home to some 500 Palestinians, are under the threat of demolition for the advancement of colonial touristic projects in the area. Before we leave this lookout, let's take another look at the city. To the east of the Old City, you can see the Mount of Olives, then the villages of Al-Izariyeh and Abu Dis. These two were among those villages of Jerusalem that were intentionally left out of the new municipal boundaries in 1967. As seen from here, the wall passes through Jerusalem, separating these Jerusalem suburbs from their city center. We just entered the Palestinian neighborhood of Jabal al-Mukabbir, but what you are looking at are the settler homes of the North Zion colony built in the heart of the Palestinian community. The occupation authorities confiscated 140,000 square meters of the lands of Jabal al-Mukabbir for constructing this colony in 2011. The colony is currently being expanded and is destined to become the largest colony inside the Palestinian neighborhood. As you can see, within this area, development is proper. Nice homes, parking spaces, sidewalks, bus stops, and a playground. As we leave the colony to where the Palestinian homes of Jabal al-Mukabbir are, notice how the infrastructure changes. The sidewalks are gone, no proper parking spaces for Palestinian cars, and no proper garbage collection. This intentional underdevelopment of Palestinian communities is a guided policy that aims at pushing Palestinians out of Jerusalem. Hand in hand with land confiscation goes the policy of home demolition. Not only that no cranes build no Palestinian homes, but also Palestinian homes are systematically demolished at the pretense that they are illegally constructed. The occupation authorities systematically prevent building permits from Palestinian residents, forcing them to build homes without permits as the only alternative to leaving their city. Residents apply for permits, pay a lot of money in the process, and get rejected. Once they build a structure, they are charged with heavy fines. Following the fines comes the demolition order, and families have to cover the expenses of their own home demolition. The whole process costs a family up to 1 million shekels, equal to $300,000. In an 80% poor population, these amounts are devastating. This usually leaves families homeless and bankrupt in the awfully expensive city of Jerusalem. Since 1967, the occupation authorities have demolished around 5,000 structures, out of which 2,000 are estimated to be homes. This is Jericho Road. This road is thousands of years old, and as its name suggests, it connects Jerusalem to Jericho in the east, which made it an important economic vein, crucial for the Palestinian economy in the city. However, in 2003, the Israeli occupation authorities started building the annexation and expansion wall around the West Bank and inside Jerusalem. In this part of Jerusalem, the wall has entirely blocked Jericho Road. As a result, any movement of goods and customers in and out of Jerusalem was cut off, and the Palestinian economy suffocated. The wall has contributed to the drastic rise in unemployment rates among Palestinians in Jerusalem. Economic de-development is another tool designed to displace Palestinians from the city. The wall effectively separates hundreds of thousands of Jerusalem district residents from their urban center. Inside the municipal boundaries alone, the wall isolates more than 150,000 Palestinians living in Kufr Aqab and Shufat refugee camp. These residents must cross military checkpoints every time they need to go to the city for services. Because of the huge disruption this has on their daily lives, thousands of Palestinians are giving up on maintaining this historic relationship with their city and looking to receive services outside the wall. This beautiful view of the old city can be seen from the Mount of Olives, one of the top tourist destinations in Jerusalem. Here, the occupation authorities are planning a new project, the Jerusalem Cable Car. The cable car will run from west to east, entrenching the Israeli control over both parts of occupied Jerusalem. Moreover, the cable car will take tourists above and not through the Palestinian communities. In tourism, Israeli propaganda and projects usually hide away the Palestinian existence in Jerusalem, gaining both political and economic benefits. Politically, not coming to our communities, visitors do not see the occupation on the ground. Economically, they spend no money in our markets. Colonial projects in the disguise of touristic development, such as the cable car, further disempower and displace Palestinians from Jerusalem. Mount Scopus, next to the Mount of Olives. You are looking east towards Jericho and the Dead Sea. Down, you can see the village of Zayim, separated from Jerusalem by the wall. Further away, you can see the colony of Ma'ale Adumim, established in 1979 and currently one of the biggest colonies in the West Bank. On the land stretching between Ma'ale Adumim and Jerusalem, the occupation authorities have started implementing a plan titled E1, short for East 1, connecting the colony to the city by building thousands of new housing units and a business district for Ma'ale Adumim. In order to implement this plan, the occupation authorities have started displacing more than 20 Palestinian Bedouin encampments, home to more than 2,000 Palestinians that are located in the area. E1 is a step towards the realization of the so-called Greater Jerusalem Metropolis Plan, a plan to annex 3 major settlement blocks in the West Bank to the city of Jerusalem: the Giv'on block in the north, the Adumim block in the east, and the Etzion block in the south. E1 and the Greater Jerusalem Metropolis are in themselves another step towards the bigger annexation plan, to annex huge chunks of the West Bank to the Zionist state. Despite the gray picture that this tour draws on the reality of Palestinian lives in Jerusalem, when you visit our communities, you will meet resilient people. Grassroots initiatives are constantly defying this well-oiled colonial machine, aiming at uprooting us from our hometown. Palestinians continue to tirelessly dream, plan, and work to stay steadfast in Al-Quds.
Thank you, Grassroots. God, that took me back. It's a lot of information. We're gonna see how we can share that video with you through Grassroots once we speak to Khaled. I want to, is Khaled back with us yet? I couldn't see on the
Yes, he is.
he is. Okay, let me give him. Perfect. All right. So we are going to go into the old city, folks. I'm excited. All right, Khaled.
Yeah, we will be in the Damascus.
Also, Khaled, just a note, the sound is really good when you're in front of the camera. It just picks it up much better.
So now it's not.
Actually, now it's not bad. It's good.
Okay. So
لا لا مش سامعين ولا إشي هلا. Much better.
This way. So we're walking now towards Damascus Gate, Bab al Amud, which is the main and the biggest gate to the old city, and the most important one, commercial, and the one that is open to yes,
We can't hear you again, Khaled.
sorry.
It's okay.
Better now?
Yep.
Okay, so Yazan, who is the son of the old city, will tell us about what we're seeing. We walk through the gate to the old city towards Al-Aqsa Mosque, towards Al-Majlis gate, one of the gates to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where the African community is as well. So what we're seeing right now is basically the surrounding of the old city. This is the main area where the Palestinian buses were. This is the center of the central station, let's say, of the Palestinians here in Women. And you can also see just past the Garden Tomb, where one of the holy places for Christianity. Not sure exactly, but one of the factions of Christianity believes this is where Jesus is buried. And also see settlers walking around. I don't know if you caught that, but yeah, that's the normal scene. Once we get there, also you will be able to see the military presence. That's really obvious and intentional, especially around these times before Ramadan. In Ramadan, the city becomes really vibrant and alive. Just before Ramadan starts, everyone is doing their preparation, shopping for the holiday. That's where you see all these stands coming up around the old city. So it also becomes a more tense time in terms of security. The Israeli authorities at this time intensifies the restrictions and increase the numbers of their forces. First of all, to scare people. Terror. That's their policy, to show that we are here and we are in control, and you shouldn't try to process that we don't pass. Okay, so this is the Damascus Gate. You can see this thing, which is the security I was telling you about. The sound still good? Nancy, let me know if it's breaks.
No, the sound is great.
Okay. So now we're looking at Damascus Gate. You can see actually it's quite not normal. Now this time of the year, and as I said before Ramadan, it's really cold. And it's activities that Palestinians do, but as you can see, it's not normal times, mostly because for Gaza, the extra intensifying of security measures on Palestinians. You also under the other about the old city and the road that we're walking through.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, that is very clear.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. My name is Yazan Roshak, a Palestinian born and raised in Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem. I'm currently working with Grassroots Al-Quds, positioning the executive director. Grassroots, for those who still don't know about us, is a Palestinian organization that works in mobilization, networking, and research. We try our best, actually, in researching Jerusalem and all policies imposed by the Israeli occupation on the Palestinians to push them out of the city. We work also on local organizing and global organizing. We are partners with social justice movements, just like Black Lives Matter, BDS, and etc. And we are now in the main entrance of the old city of Jerusalem, which is the Damascus Gate. As you can see, it's an active gate. It is the main entrance to the old city. On our way, we will see two ways. On the right, you will see it in a minute. It is a market which is called Khan al-Zayt, Souk Khan al-Zayt, which means market. And on the left side is Al-Wad, where the gate al-Majlis to the side, and I'll tell you more on our way. Listen, camera. Listen, even more. So, as you can see, this is over here the sign that says Damascus Gate Road, or Tariq Bab al-Amoud in Arabic. On the right side, it is Khan al-Zayt market. It is a market where people usually buy grocery, clothes, and etc. Carpets, for example, being sold here. It is a very big market, a Palestinian market. It is very important to mention here that after the construction of the wall, more than 5,000 markets in the old city where we are now have been closed. So
Now I got choppy. I think it froze.
in Al-Wad, Bab al-Wad. Again?
لا قطع شوي بس
Excuse me? So, can you hear me well? Can me?
عم بقطع كتير هلا. All right, we may have lost them for a moment in the old city. We will come back to them. So they are heading, in fact, very close to the African quarters, which hopefully when they come back, they will show you. And we do have our brother Sheikh Mousa, the director of the Afro-Palestinian Society, with us here today. I do want to give a shout out to Andrew Courtney. I see you. I know you have the book, The Guardians of the Mosque. If you can see Andrew there on the camera, it is a beautiful book about the African Palestinians. I am going to hand it over to Sheikh Mousa. If you can just tell us, Sheikh Mousa, a little bit about the African quarters and the Afro-Palestinian Society to start.
Hello, everybody. Good evening to everybody. My name is Mousa Qous. I am the Executive Director of the African Community Society. And brief summary of the African community. We are Palestinian of African descent, and we are descended from 4 African countries, which are Chad, Nigeria, Senegal, and Sudan. And the main reason for the first generation immigration to Jerusalem was for two reasons. First of all, for religious reason, to perform the pilgrimage, since they are Muslims, to perform the pilgrimage to Jerusalem after performing the pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia. And any person, and any African who visited all the holiest places in Islam, and whenever he goes back to Africa, this issue will give him a high status in the society. So this is and the other reason for their for immigration. Some of them were recruited in the Salvation Army when the Zionist movement started to take over Palestine. They were recruited. The Salvation Army was established, and some of them were recruited in that, or volunteered actually in that army in order to liberate the Palestinian territories from the Zionist movement. So these are two main reasons for their immigration. And in the place where we are living, they were actually built by since the 13th century by the Mamluks who governed Jerusalem at that time. And the two compounds were actually established, built in order to host the poor people of Jerusalem, and the second thing, to host the pilgrims to Jerusalem. And by the late time of the British, Ottoman Empire in Jerusalem, the Ottomans converted these two compounds into prison. So, and afterwards, when the British came, the prison was closed, and the African started to live in these two compounds permanently. So since then, it is known as the African community in the old city of Jerusalem. And who helped them in living in that to live in those two compounds. To actually the great Mufti of Jerusalem at that time, whose name was Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who during the British mandate, at the beginning, his relation with the British was so good, but later on, he turns against the British because the British helped the Zionists to settle in Jerusalem. So the British and the Mufti used to take six African as bodyguards for him. So when his relation get worse with the British, and the British issued an arrest warrant against him in order an arrest warrant. And while he was on his way to perform the praise in Al-Aqsa Mosque, the British soldiers tried to arrest him, but his bodyguards defended him, and the British opened fire and shot dead one of his bodyguards, which is actually an African, and his name is Haj Osman Takruri. So I think this incident helped the Mufti to interfere with the Islamic Waqf, and he used to have a great influence on the Islamic Waqf in order to rent these two compounds for the African people to settle, to reside in, because the African youth preferred to stay very close to the mosque. And since then, we start to live permanently and as I told you before, the people used to start to know that this is the African quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. But because at the beginning, because the people knew that it used to be the prison during the Ottomans, so, and the people who are living in these two compounds are black people. Some people used to call it the prison of the slaves because we are dark because of our skin. But later on, we succeeded in changing this name by introducing a new term, which is the African community in Jerusalem. And since then, so the people now, our quarter is now known as the African community in the old city, or African community quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. And nobody nowadays, nobody calls it as the slave of the prison of the slaves or something of the sort. And when Israel occupied Jerusalem, and the members of the African community get engaged in the Palestinian struggle against the Israeli occupation. And the first Palestinian female prisoner, it was from our community. Her name is Fatima Barnawi. And later on, Fatima, she spent 10 years in prison because of resisting occupation, and afterwards she was released as part of a prisoner exchange between PLO and Israel, and she was deported to outside the country, first of all to Lebanon, then she moved with the Palestinian leadership to Tunisia. And when the PLO signed the Oslo agreement with Israel, she returned back with the Palestinian leadership, and she helped in establishing the Palestinian female prison force, and she was the commander of the Palestinian female police force until 2 years ago. And unfortunately, she passed away last year, and she passed away in Egypt. And also we have other members from our community, like the cousins Muhammad, the cousins Ali and Mahmoud Jadde, who spent 17 years in prison because of the resistant occupation. And both were also released in 1985 as part of a prisoner exchange between Palestinian factions called PFLP, General Command, which is headed by Ahmad Jibril, and the Israeli government. And the other members of our community were served several terms in Israeli prison because of the resistance to occupation. And this, I think, the engagement of our community in the Palestinian struggle, I think this also helped our brothers Palestinians to show more respect to the African community. And in 1983, our community established an organization. It's called the African Community. We called it African Community Society. And this organization, which is an NGO, it started to provide its services in the old city to help not only the African members of the African community, but also Palestinians in the old city and Palestinians in Jerusalem in general. And lately, and because of the situation in Jerusalem nowadays, and many people are not allowed to cross to the old city. And for example, people from West Bank, they are not allowed to have access to Jerusalem and to the old city. Even after the 7th of October, even youth from the old city or from Jerusalem are not allowed to perform the prayers in Al-Aqsa Mosque. And only the old people are allowed to get inside the mosque. And even also people from the youth, even from within the Green Line, from the areas of 1948 areas, the youth also are not allowed to have access to the mosque in order to perform the prayers. Also because of the South Africa stands in the ACG, even the tourists from South Africa, particularly Muslim tourists, they are not allowed also to have access to the mosque to pray. And although they are coming to Jerusalem in order to perform the prayers in Jerusalem, but the Israeli police who stands at the main gate to the mosque, they don't allow them to pass. And also at the main entrance to the street where our community locates, also sometimes Israeli police erect a checkpoint and they don't allow any person to have access or to cross to the street. It means that they are not allowed even to have access to our headquarters in the community. And this issue affect our activities, and since the people who benefit from our activities are not allowed to cross, this also will harm our activities and don't allow to perform our activities normally. And also in the old city of Jerusalem, we noticed that the Israeli police started to summon people to particularly youth to the police station and interrogate them, and also issued them orders or ban orders from entering the mosque. Some people, for example, for 6 months, pardon. For example, my nephew also, he was summoned to the police, and first of all, he was prevented from entering the mosque for 6 months. And afterwards, they arrest him from the street, and now he is under arrest. And they are now interrogating him about something he wrote in the Facebook, and which they consider incitement. So, on tomorrow, he has a trial tomorrow. I don't know what is going to happen with him. So, and also, as I told you, the old city, after performing the Isha prayers, the last prayers, and it turns into a city like living as a semi-careful. You can see only people, the residents only of the old city are moving, and the police, Israeli police, and members of the border guards, and also the settlers, who also, on many occasions, they used to come to our street and try to incite the youth and engage in the fist fighting with our youth in the street. And people in the old city suffer a lot from the policies of the Israeli occupation. And moreover, in the economic situation, people, and according to Israeli statistics, almost 72% of the Palestinians in Jerusalem are living under the poverty line. If we add to that, the deteriorating economic situation, which since after the 7th of October, you can imagine how the situation is getting bad and bad in the old city. And also, some of the people and some of the youth who used to work now they are suffer of unemployment because of the economic situation, economic problem in the city. And this helps in deteriorating the situation even more and more in the city. And I don't know if you have any question, maybe if you raise any question, I can. And by the way, I would like to say hello to my friend Andrew, he visited us in the community and spent quite a time. So hello, Andrew, and it's nice and it's a pleasure meeting you again.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Mousa. We're going to come right back to you. I also see the questions in the chat. Thank you, MP. That's a very good question, and I always love to ask that. And we're going to ask some questions in a few moments. I want to go back to Khaled so he can show you the Afro-Palestinian Society. I believe they are outside. I think you have to unmute, Khaled. We can't hear you. راح الفيديو. رجع الفيديو.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Okay. Okay, first of all, thank you, Sheikh Mousa, for the introduction. It is very informative, and I always enjoy listening to you. Thank you so much. We are now looking at the main entrance of the Afro-Palestinian Society in the old city of Jerusalem. Okay. And we will try to enter now Al-Aqsa Mosque. Not enter, sorry. We will show you the main entrance of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is very, very near to the main entrance of the African community in Jerusalem. As you can see, people use this gate to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they're usually being asked to show their IDs and to show their legal papers that allows them to enter Al-Aqsa Mosque, or even being in Jerusalem. As some of you might know, that Palestinians in Jerusalem are divided. The legal status of Palestinian in Jerusalem is divided into three levels. The first one is Palestinians who hold the Israeli citizenship that was imposed on them in 1948. The second are Palestinians just like me, and 350,000 Palestinians that we hold a permanent residency, that we need actually to prove that Jerusalem is our center of life in order to keep this residency that allows us to be inside the new boundaries of Jerusalem according to the annexation and expansion wall. And proving that Jerusalem is our center of life is a very crucial and important part in our lives, because we are asked to show every month the proper documentations, just like water bills, water bills, electricity bills, and of course medical health, and etc. Now the internet might be weak. It might cut off, but yeah, we'll try to work fast.
I think we lost them again. And once they come back.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now. Yeah, now we can.
Nancy, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, so we are now working fast. Okay, we are now working fast inside the old city of Jerusalem, exiting the old city of Jerusalem from Bab al-Majlis, where the African community is located. We pass by the Via della Rosa, the historic road where Jesus actually went through. And yeah, as you can see, there is like a lot of Israeli flags These are Palestinian houses that were taken position just like Al-Ad and others, of course replacing Palestinians with settlers. This is the fifth stage in Via della Rosa, and it is actually believed that Jesus actually rested here by putting his hand over here and the cross on his back, and that's why it is a very important stop in the fifth stop in Via della Rosa. Of course, a lot of settlers you will see in the old city of Jerusalem, just like just for one purpose, to show that we are here, we are inside your neighborhoods, we are everywhere, we can reach you, and to show dominance, of course. Again, yeah, we will now pass by a flying checkpoint, a flying security check, where soldiers, as you can see on my left, are now, they might now ask us to show our IDs and etc. On the other side over here, this is also Via della Rosa, and of course, the host piece, the Austrian host piece, which palace. It used to be a hospital, and now it is a hotel. Yeah. So thank you all for listening. I hope that this was clear and briefly explained. There is a lot to talk about in Jerusalem, especially the old city of Jerusalem. But due to the internet connection over here and the weather is very, very windy, we will leave you with, if you want to ask any questions, we are here to answer.
Thank you so much, Yazan and Khaled. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's not easy, and I know the situation isn't as it usually is. So thank you. شكرا كتير كتير. الله يعطيكم العافية. We are going to go back to our brother Sheikh Mousa. Salamat, Sheikh Mousa. I have a couple of questions for you. The first question, I just want to talk a little bit more about the center. What programs do you have? Oh, Khaled, can you mute? Sorry. What programs do you have with the women and the children? يعني إيش البرامج اللي بتسووهن مع النساء والأولاد في القدس when you're able to do them?
For example, we have a workshop where we can teach the women how to sew, sewing, and this will help them to generate, for example, when learning how to sew clothes, this might help them to generate income. And also sometimes we organize courses, different kind of courses, how to make food and sell it, and other project, different kinds of project, but we focus mostly on teaching them something that might help them in generating income to overcome the difficult economic situation that they live in. Also for the youth, also we try to educate them more about about their national entity, and to engage them in different kinds of activities. For example, such as art, like in Debka, performing Debka, so that in order to draw the youth, to attract the youth from the streets, so that they might not engage in drugs or other things, and help them to educate them more and more. And as you know, people, youth, in the old city, because of the economic situation, they leave school, they don't finish their schools. So we try to help them and encourage them to finish their school and to attend the university. And those who are not able to attend the university, we help them in also project so that they can generate income from them. And we are going within the within in the coming few months. We are trying to educate the youth how to use websites and in order to, for example, to make trading and commerce or something of the sort through the internet, and so that they might help them to generate income and to promote meanwhile the products of Palestinian products in Jerusalem. This, I think, if God's, if everything is okay, I think within 2 or 3 months we will start this project. And also for the boys or the children, also we try to engage them in different art activities and to help them to do their lessons, school lessons, teach them. And also for the youth, also we are going to establish a course in English to improve their English language, and because they suffer they are very weak in English, and we are trying to do that. And whenever, and also we depend on we try what they need, the youth or the women or the children, what they need, and we focus on their needs and help them so that they can continue with their life. We hope to be normally, but as you know, we'll do our best. And the main thing that we suffer, we don't accept, for example, any conditioned funding for example, for our project. For example, we boycott the American funding, the USAID funding, and the European funding because they put more conditions, and sometimes they accuse Palestinian NGOs that they fund what they call terrorist organization or something of the sort. And although we differ with them who is a terrorist, who is there is no accepted definition of the word terrorism. For example, any person who resists occupation, they accuse him of being a terrorist. So in order to be on the safe side, we don't accept any conditioned funding. We depend mostly, for example, we have a big hall, we rent this hall, and we in order to fund our projects, and also we depend on contribution from our community, and also we depend on our on the Arab funding, not from the European funding. Yes.
Thank you, Sheikh Mousa. We would love to try and help. If anybody's interested in supporting the Afro-Palestinian Society, please do reach out to us. Info at eyewitnesspalestine.org. We also, when we do our delegations, which we'll be resuming, inshallah, in a few months, we will definitely be visiting and meeting with Sheikh Mousa and other Black Palestinian communities in the West Bank and across the board. I want to ask you a question. It's a question. So there is actually a film that myself and Mark Lamont Hill have been working on called Black in the Holy Land. It's something that I've worked on for years. For me as a Palestinian, I work very closely with different Black communities, having grown up abroad and being around different people. I didn't know there were Black Palestinians until 2011. And so there's always this question that comes up, and I saw the MP asked it as well, but there is always a question about racism between light-skinned Arabs and Black Palestinians. So do you feel racism, from Palestinians that are not dark-skinned? I know there are some instances, when it comes to marriage and things like that, some people, have, but I think there's ignorance in every race. But what is it like for Black Palestinians from other Palestinians? And do you feel any racism?
Yeah, as I told you before, and because we reside in a place which used to be a prison, and because of our dark skin, they used to call, to call the place, and it's a prison of the slaves. Although, none of the our community has a past where he used to be a slave, and they immigrated to Jerusalem, or they came to Jerusalem voluntarily, as I told you, to perform the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, or to fight the Zionist movement, Zionist movement. The first generation suffered a lot from discrimination, from racism in the Palestinian society. But as I told you, because the African communities participated a lot in the Palestinian national struggle, so the view towards us has been changed. And because we have an organization, an NGO, and we provide our activities, we target Palestinians as a whole. This also help us to be very active and in the society, and to be respected also. And for example, I give you an example. For example, my brother is head of an organization called Palestinian Prisoner Society. He is the director of this organization in Jerusalem. So, and this organization provides services for the political prisoners in Jerusalem. For example, whenever a Palestinian is arrested, my brother will appoint this organization will appoint a lawyer for him to defend him in court. And and by the way, when the Orient House was closed, don't exactly remember the date, but this organization was closed also with the Orient House, because it was part of the Orient House. But my brother now continues his activity and to provide the services of this organization in Jerusalem. And I think his mobile phone, it is the organization, became the organization. So any person who call him whenever a Palestinian is arrested in Jerusalem, he will call the lawyer, so that the lawyer will follow the case of any Palestinian who is arrested by the Israeli occupation. Also, we have like we can say intermarriage with the Palestinians. And for example, the first generation, most of them, they are men, and they married Palestinian women, and the Palestinian women raised us as Palestinians more than being Africans. And the second generation also get intermarried with the other Palestinian. So, with each generation, we are losing our black color. So we are losing our color little by little, and we became whiter and whiter. And so, as I told you, because of our activity in the Palestinian society, and because of the intermarriage, we don't suffer of any kind of discrimination from our Palestinian brothers. And as I told you, only because يعني we both يعني Palestinian of African descent and Palestinian and pure Palestinians, we all suffer with the occupation. And we can, so we share the same fate and the same future in Jerusalem. And I don't think we suffer of any kind of discrimination. Only, for example, when a person wants to ask for a white woman or white girl in marriage, at the beginning, for example, her father or her family will, oh, black person or something or so. But if the girl insists and the man insists, يعني خلاص يعني this is not a, we can't say it is an obstacle. And by the way, in the coming August and in September, يعني two of our community men from our community, they are going to get married to two white girls. يعني. So يعني things are getting better and better for us. And as I told you, don't suffer. And even the people, we don't, for a person, I don't know more here the word, for example, prison of the slaves or for example, or call us niggers, or like in the United States, we don't face like that because, however, we are. Our community, Palestinian community, they deal with us, react with us with high respect. And also the Palestinian organization in Jerusalem, they respect us all a lot because we are, as I told you, we're located at the main entrance to the mosque, and in all of our cities, there are no settlers living, or none of the houses was leaked to the settlers, or no settlers living in our city. And because we live and also the properties belong to the Islamic Waqf. And the Islamic Waqf recently has a meeting, and he told me, we respect the African community and we consider you as guardians, as guards to the mosque. And because, and by the way, some of our members of our committee are now working as guards inside the mosque. Yes,
Andrew Courtney's.
Andrew, I saw. Yes, I see you, Andrew.
Sheikh Mousa, thank you so much. Shukran khaya. I have a question for you, which is interesting because having visited the Black Palestinian, well, some of they're Bedouins, some of them say that they're Palestinian, some don't. In Rahat, I have visited Tul Karim refugee camp, which is predominantly Black Palestinian. I have been to Ain Duke. A lot of the Black Palestinians don't have connections to their roots in Africa, but I know that the Afro-Palestinian community, you guys, did you visit there? Or has some of your members visited Africa? I believe that you have some sort of connection, right? And you guys still do make African food, right?
We still make African food, that the first generation, we inherited from the first generation. But actually our relation with Africa, I can't say that we have a relation with Africa or any connection with Africa, because we suffer of, for example, I give you an example. My father, when he immigrated in the early 40s into Jerusalem, he immigrated from Chad, and Chad was a French colony. When he immigrated to Jerusalem, Chad was a French colony, and he used to have a French passport. And we, for example, now I tried, for example, to apply for this passport because my father used to carry this passport. However, the French refused to issue us the French citizenship, because they said that Chad now is an independent country, and you can go to Chad and apply for this citizenship. But meanwhile, according to the Israeli laws, because we are considered as permanent resident in Jerusalem, if we apply for foreign citizenship, this might affect us and make us lose our right to reside in Jerusalem. So we prefer not to apply for the citizenship because we don't want to lose our right to reside in Jerusalem, and we prefer to continue to live in Jerusalem and to provide ourselves in Jerusalem. And this issue does not help us to, for example, to have any connection with African countries and visiting African countries. And we can, and if we want to travel abroad, we only have the Israeli occupation issued us because we are we are considered as permanent residents in Jerusalem, not Israeli citizens, but permanent residents in Jerusalem. They issue us documents called travel document, laissez-passer. And according to this laissez-passer, we can only visit the countries that have diplomatic relation with Israel. And by the way, although the African community used to be in Jerusalem or to live in Jerusalem even before the establishment of the Jordanian kingdom, or before the foundation of the Jordanian kingdom ruled in Jerusalem, the Jordanians, when they ruled Jerusalem, they treated the Africans as foreigners. So they didn't issue us the Jordanian citizenship like other residents in Jerusalem and West Bank. So we don't have also the Jordanian resident. Although the Israelis, they issued us the permanent residents because they considered us as Jordanian residents. And can you imagine how the situation is complicated for us?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that because Yazan also spoke about that. Just for folks to understand, Palestinians in Jerusalem, whose generation, generations before them, great grandparents who were born there, are not given, although it is in what they call Israel proper, they are given residency and not Israeli citizenship. Whereas 48ers like myself from Haifa, we're quote unquote Israeli Arabs, even though they are in Jerusalem, which they say is the capital of Israel, they get residency. And what Yazan was saying is that every month you have to prove that you have bills and that you're living in Jerusalem. Otherwise, they take your residency away. I have a friend who was studying in London, Mindar Abu Jum'a, and he was studying in London. And because he stayed away for more than 6 months, they took his residency away. So now he's just in London. And they get offered a Jordanian passport, but they're not Jordanian. And even I think in the Jordanian passport, it says that you're not Jordanian. It's just a passport. It's wild, the situation. Just more divide and conquer. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we will have to jump off. This has been really beautiful. Sheikh Mousa, Andrew asked, how many Black communities, international Black communities, visit the Afro-Palestinian quarters or the African quarters or the Afro-Palestinian Society? And also, what is the relationship with other African communities, like the folks from Dimona under Ben Ami, the African refugees and the Ethiopians? What's the relationship with the Afro-Palestinian? I've seen them at your center before, but how is that relationship?
For example, we used to, for example, some people from the United States, for example, Black Lives Matters, some members of the Black Lives Matters, they used to come and visit us, and we tried to establish a good relation with them and coordination. And for the African in Dimona, they consider themselves as Hebrewanized, and we have good relation with them. Although they are not Muslim, we don't have any problem with the religion. And they used to come and visit us every now and then, and sometimes we go and visit them, and we try to coordinate with them and help support each other. And whenever they, for example, they have visitors from outside the countries, they used to accompany them to our community and to try to brief them on our community and try to establish connection with them. And for example, however, for the Ethiopian the people from Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Jews who serve in the Israeli army, we don't have any kind of connection with them, because we consider them as part of the occupation. However, also for the Christian people, for Christians, Black Christians, we have good relations. We exchange visits with each other, and we consider them as brothers, and they consider brothers. Whenever and we have any kind of social, for example, activities or social occasions, we visit each other's, and we don't have any problem with the color, or whatever. But for example, if for example we Ethiopians we are not ready to establish a relation with them because they serve in the army, and we are not ready to serve to have any connection or have relation with an Israeli army or any member of the Israeli army.
But Sheikh Mousa, I have to ask you, the ones from Dimona, the Hebrew Israelites, they serve in the Israeli army.
This, we, as I told you, and we don't, and for example, I recently heard, that they start to serve in the Israeli army, but before, because as you know, they suffered a lot from them, and the Israeli posed a lot of pressure on them, and they, at the beginning, for example, whenever a person from them go to work, they used to arrest him, and they impose a lot of pressure on them, and they were forced to serve in the army because in order to keep their presence in Dimona, they came for religious reasons, and they suffered from economic situation, and later on, the Israelis, because of the pressures, they were forced to serve in the army. But as I told you, we have good relation with them, but we keep it on a low profile. We don't keep it low like the Ethiopians or who serve in the army and go and kill Palestinians or others.
And yeah, actually, we cover them in our film, The Black in the Holy Land. It's not out yet, but we do visit Dimona, and, they were for a long time, Israel just said that they didn't recognize them as Jews, period. And they did suffer a lot, but then something happened to, I think, a member of their community was killed in an operation by a Palestinian, and they ended up offering them residency at that time. And so more recently they started serving in the Israeli army. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult with them. And even, even the Ethiopians, I feel bad because they suffered also. The women were injected with birth control without their knowledge. I mean, there was a lot re-education programs. They didn't see them as pure Jews when they came to the land either. And then, but they're in the army, and I'm sure that. Do you find that difficult? A very good Ghanaian friend of mine, African friend of mine, said to me, when Africans see each other, you always kind of just nod, like you acknowledge each other. It's like Palestinians, we acknowledge each other. Does it do you see any difference? Obviously, you don't see a difference. Israeli army is Israeli army, but does it bother you more? Like for me, even though I'm a, white passing Palestinian, but when I see Black soldiers, it does hurt my feelings because I think how oppressive the Israeli society is, or government is as a whole, and how racist they are, and the fact that they are doing the job of a white supremacist state. Do you feel worse when a Black soldier harasses you?
Listen, okay, as when the Ethiopians first started the immigration from Ethiopia, the Israelis at that time they don't take from them blood donation because they consider it a filthy blood or I know they suffer a lot and they are not treated like, for example, Europeans, European Jews or American Jews, and Black Jews are the Black Ethiopians are suffered a lot, and I feel sorry for them, and some of them, by the way, they are not actually Jews, and but they want to get rid of the country because of the difficult economic and very under the situation, hard situation. They were deceived, and they were deceived that Israel is a democratic state and it's a land for honey for them or something. But when they came, face they face the reality that the situation is very difficult, and some of them they try to approach to approach us. For example, the police who work who's patrol or the Israeli black police who guards at the entrance of the mosque. They try to approach us and to befriend to us and to deal us in a different way. And for example, they called us Abu Samra or something of the sort. I try to have any kind of contact. But as I told you, we are very cautious when dealing with them. And you feel that they are they are close to you because of the color, but but because of their mentality or something of the sort, and because of working with the occupation and being part of the occupation, we can't forget that they are part of the Israeli occupation, which is oppressing our people or imprisoning our youth or something. So we deal with them very cautiously. We do try not to have a good relation with them or to have to befriend them and host them in our organization. We can't host any of them, neither in our houses or neither in our organization, because it is our organization is a Palestinian organization, and this we are not ready. We are not ready, and we will not accept. For example, we don't even accept funding from the Europeans or from any condition of money. So how come that we can host these people in our organization? No way.
Like me, I totally understand. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. بنحبك شيخ موسى، بنحبك
الله
يا
يسعدك يسعدك
إن شاء الله بنشوفك عن قريب.
إن شاء الله إن شاء الله.
I did tell everybody, if anybody would like to support the Afro-Palestinian Society, please email us. We will connect you with Sheikh Mousa. Please support their programs. They do great work in the area. And like he said, they are at times not able or restricted in their programs because of the checkpoint that is erected on their street. And I've many times when I go to visit, that checkpoint is there. And when Ali Jadda was still running around, he used to come down and scream at the soldiers and they would let me in. So, but they, we want to support them as much as possible. They are, as the book says, guardians of the mosque. And when you see Al-Aqsa being attacked, many of our brothers right there in the African quarters are on the front lines. And we would love to support. Also, when I was there one time, they came and dragged out one of the kids that was singing with us. I would love to be able to support in any way. We will definitely connect folks with you, and hopefully we can do something in the future together. If anybody is interested, I saw some messages about our delegations. We do have ones that are based around Black communities in Palestine. Please go to our website, eyewitnesspalestine.org, and just fill out an interest form, a delegation interest form, and we will be in contact as soon as we resume our delegations. Thank you, Khaled or Yazan. Thank you so much to Grassroots for the video. We appreciate everybody today. And if anybody has any questions, wants to connect with Sheikh Mousa directly, feel free to email us. Sheikh Mousa, do you have عندكم website مش
Afro-Palestinians.org.
Can you put it in the chat for us real quick? And that way folks can grab the website and feel free to reach out and look at the work that they do. We appreciate everybody being here. Also, please stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. We have children of the camps we'll be joined with Yafa Cultural Center in Balata refugee camp in Nablus, talking about their programs with the children. And we will also be having a webinar, Education Under Occupation, with students from Bir Zayt, that will be connecting with students from CUNY, hopefully. They've been trying to block it, but we're working around it. So please stay tuned. You can sign up to our newsletters and our updates on our website. Also, all of our videos are uploaded to our past events link on our website. If you go to events, past events, you can see all the different webinars that we've had. We've had some beautiful webinars at the end of March. I believe, Maureen, the date is the 28th, I might be off, 29th. We have the live from Lid that will be led by Tamer Nafar in the 48 area, which the airport that you know is Ben Gurion, Tel Aviv, was actually Lid Airport when it was Palestine. And we will be in that area, which is a Palestinian, predominantly Palestinian town next to the airport. And yeah, so sign up, connect with the Sheikh Mousa and Afro-Palestinian Society, and anybody that needs any connections, or please email us. I'm seeing a lot of messages in here. That would be amazing, Barbara. Yeah, we will connect, definitely. Thank you, everybody. Allah yatikul afiyah. I know it's late there.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Sheikh Musa, thank you, Khaled. Thank you, Yazan. Thank you, Maureen.
Nice
Thank
to
you,
see you,
everybody.
Andrew.
Yeah,
Andrew.
thank you, Andrew.
Hey.
And we
Thank you, guys.
thank you so much. And stop the recording in 3, 2, 1. Thank you.